as well. So I'm wondering if there's any kind of information from there that's useful in terms of concern that we should have as a city regarding, we seem to have a growth of pensioners and a growth of youth, both ends. Is there any reason to be concerned with that?
Well, certainly both those demographics will require different services within the community, so certainly that is something to keep in mind for sure. It does show the income here for the seniors or the older population. However, when you're looking at the in-migration, it's not a high number. That was one of the reasons we included that slide, because there has been a fair amount of discussion about a lot of seniors moving into the census metropolitan area. And there are some, but it's not as large as some had thought. But there will be certain implications for both of those, and I can't think of any right now to share with you, but I can certainly look at that and get back to you.
I can answer. Councillor Folsey, you mentioned on page 19 that retirement pension income is 19% of the total income in Thunder Bay, which is higher than the provincial average. Is that good or bad? We view that as being a positive, but not for the long term. Because we have a higher percentage of seniors, about 3% higher than the rest of the province, that's reflected in pension income as a percentage of the total income. So that's a positive, but however, we can't rely on that source of income indefinitely. That's a boost to the economy because, it's gonna be spent. But we need to look farther and look at other indicators, like the percentage of private sector industries vis-a-vis the public sector that will have an impact on the local economy going forward.
Okay, thank you for that. My second question does have to do with some of the slides that you presented in your PowerPoint presentation. I'm sorry, my slides aren't numbered, but I'm looking at the slide where it shows annual employment growth, and I'm really struck by the construction being almost 42%. I'm presuming that that's not sustainable. I mean, we can't simply keep building and building. But my question is, in terms of your mining predictions, you're predicting in the trade and labor occupations some expansion and growth. I'm wondering if you, in your analysis, are able to predict whether there will be a transition of those workers from the construction area to the trades and labor occupations in the future mining opportunities. Or am I reaching there? That's something that just stuck out to me, if there's a potential for transition for those workers.
There is certainly a chance there, or an opportunity, and there will be within a lot of the occupational categories that the mining report illustrated. Out of the 7 categories there, 6 of them are unique to the mining industry. The one that says other is actually includes occupations that will be required within that sector, but are also found in alternative sectors. But yes, absolutely, and within the mining report, generally speaking, most of their studies cover the full cycle of a mine life, right through exploration, construction, mining. For this study for our district, it actually covers exploration and then operating mines. So the construction is an area there where they will certainly be looking at taking some of the workers that have been working in construction and turning those skills into the mining sector.
Thank you for that. And my third question is, the 2 pieces of data that struck me was, from 2003 to 2011, the decrease of 6,700 jobs. I mean, from the 66 to the 59, as well as the decrease in the manufacturing sector. Those 2 pieces of data really struck me, particularly given some of the successes around Bombardier and in particular the Thunder Bay metal fabricators. Because both of those in particular seem quite successful and perhaps a little contrary to those other pieces of data. Is there something that you can maybe illustrate, some of the areas where we're losing?
Well, when we're looking at the numbers, I know it can be somewhat misleading when you look at the statistics overall when there is a loss, but there will be some growth and expansion within some of the businesses within that industry, but overall there is still a negative or a decline. And another thing that another complication that comes in analyzing the data when you're looking at the industry classification system and how you can purchase the data, depending on the size of the census metropolitan area, the size of the CMA determines the cutoff of what they can share or what numbers they have to suppress, depending on the number of employers within that area. And so a smaller census metropolitan area such as Thunder Bay, a lot of the individual information is suppressed. So we can't see or identify the individual companies. So that does make it more difficult to identify those. However, overall, you can see the trend. And it would be the local intelligence by going to the different businesses to establish if they were indeed one of the growth industry businesses within that industry or if they'd experienced a decline. So we would have to do more information gathering.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roberto, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of comments. And one thing I'd like to see at some point is the number of retirees that when they retire who have good pensions. And what I mean by that are teachers, firemen, policemen, hospital workers, etc.
Councillor Roberto, it's not for comments, it's questions,
Yeah,
please.
the question's coming
Well, you said a couple of comments, so,
before I ask the question.
okay, let's
Because
stay
I want
with
them to
questions,
comment
please.
on the question. When I see these, I see about 150, 200 people that are retiring in this city with excellent pensions. To me, that's an industry because now you have working people, unemployed people, retired people with an income causing a vacancy in our community. So we have to replace them. So we're replacing 150 people, and we have 150 people still earning wages. I'd like to see those numbers to show that even though these people are retired, they're still contributing to our economy. Because I'm always getting asked the questions, who's building these houses? How are they affording this? How are they affording that? And that would be an interesting number to know. Do you have any comments on that, anybody?
Do you want to take this?
Yeah, Councilor Roberto, when Stats Canada census numbers only give limited information, you're asking a question that would require more in-depth analysis of other indicators, which we're working on. For example, in the fall, within a year, census numbers will be much more comprehensive, and then we can expand on these findings. Until then, this gives us an indication that there are sectors that are growing and other sectors are also declining. For example, we still lost about 120 companies in the last 3 years. Now, you look at the composition, the size, how many employees have been lost, and a lot of things have happened in the last year. So, these numbers go to 2011, we're in 2012. Some hiring has occurred in the last year. So we're giving you as current information as possible, but hopefully once new information comes out, we'll be able to come back and send you those details.
I appreciate that. Just in regards to small business, and you made an interesting comment, you said about 80% of the number of people hired are hired by small business. Yet and I'm looking at the programs that are available for these people to survive, these small business people. You know what I'm saying? Are they getting a lot of help from different sources? Because it looks like the main industry is mining and, all these other big companies are always looking to get grants, et cetera, for millions of dollars. And yet the little guy who wants to expand or, develop his business, who are the core employers of this city, don't seem to get the same mileage, the same coverage, the same exposure as everybody else. You have a comment on that?
Certainly you are.
Or do they have to be limited to what you have listed here?
No, absolutely not. We've just
Okay.
started discussions with that one.
Okay.
And so really what the end product or event is going to look like has not been determined. We just know it was in a very high interest area. And
Okay.
so we wanted to do something within that sector, but I'm more than interested to hear those partners.
All right, well, then maybe we can chat off then at another
Excellent.
time about that. Anyway, the work
Thank
is
you.
well done, and it's already been identified to you, and I truly appreciate the data that's provided for us in the various reports, so thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Angus, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks very much for not only your presentation tonight, but all the work that you do on a regular basis. On page 19 of the Economic and Labor Market Guidance, Thunder Bay CMA, actually 18 and 19, you indicate the source of income for the Thunder Bay CMA. And you've got total employment income of about 2.5 billion with a B. And then you show that under other sources that you've got investment income, private pensions, RSPs, and other income, which comes to about 590 million. And then total government transfers, which comes to 570 million, or over $500 million. So in terms of those last two groupings, which comes to over $1 billion, of people who, to use a pejorative term, clip coupons or collect pogey or pensions or what have you, $1 billion goes into our economy from those sources. Do you have any data that would indicate what the return on that investment is? Because, I mean, these people buy groceries, they pay rent or pay mortgages, they buy gasoline, they live in this community, they go to the show, their money revolves. Do you have any statistics that would indicate what the value of that $1 billion is to this economy? And conversely, what it would be like without it or without parts of it? And if you don't, can you get it?
No, I don't know how. No, you take it, please. You take it, please. Can you take this one, please?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Angus. Return on investment, we can best phrase it this way. When you talk about government transfers, most of that money, our information indicates most of that money is spent in the community. There is little savings. So it has a direct impact, one-on-one.
But any sense of whether or not it has a stimulus factor? For example, a group in Hamilton did a study of Ontario Works payments, and they found that for every dollar issued to an Ontario Works recipient, there was a $1.20 benefit to the community. We know from other kinds of direct and indirect benefits of a construction job. We always have to put those in our applications for funding for FedNor and Heritage Fund, et cetera. We know what those kind of spin-offs are. But in terms of total government transfers, have you run across any formula or any stats that we can use that would describe that in a with more clarity?
We haven't focused on that particular point. We're trying to, our studies are now looking at the big picture, but I appreciate your point, and we will endeavor to include that information in future studies because I think it is relevant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you. Seeing no further speakers.
If I may, Mr. Chair, if I can answer, there was a question before that I think I may have an answer for, Councillor McKinnon. I think your question was in the population for the Thunder Bay District. It would be around 150,000. The CMA is the surrounding municipalities, and it goes up to 122. So if we're talking about the Thunder Bay District, it goes all the way to Marathon, McKinnon, it would be around that. So we have to be specific, so that information was correct if it's the Thunder Bay District. Okay, I wanted to explain that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate all the work.